And then fifth and finally, the area of law that I find the most fascinating, that I struggle every day to get to, is what I call the emerging law of globalization. There are bodies of law that are now emerging that did not exist even 10, 15 years ago. One such area is cyber law. And this has become a vigorous area of practice. It includes e-commerce. It includes issues about cyber crime, cyber terrorism, and it's an extraordinarily important area. Another, polar law. Polar law. I don't know about you, but I never thought much about polar law. But think about this. The global warming is occurring. The polar ice cap is melting. People are able to sail boats deeper into the polar ice cap. They can therefore investigate, and there is a possibility now of finding more fossil fuels below the ice cap, which could then cause more global warming. And the obvious question is, what should be the regime to deal with this question? Some have suggested it should be the regime of law applied in the Antarctica, but the fact of the matter is, as you might think, they are polar opposites. Antarctica is a land. The polar ice cap is frozen water. There's a highly different regime. The polar area is abutted by only a small number of countries. This area, the high north, will be a subject of tremendous discussion and investigation in the years ahead. So, in conclusion, let me say that when all is said and done, there are basically two agendas: a lawyering agenda, which is answering the questions that come in each day, and the other is a rule of law agenda, which I think breaks into three: repair, resume, and renew. One is to repair what we think are incursions to the rule of law that have occurred. The resumption, meaning to resume our multilateral engagement in a whole array of diplomatic fora, by which I mean the Human Rights Council, the International Criminal Court, the climate talks, revised regional discussions in the Middle East with North Korea, the long-ignored economic diplomacy agenda on issues like trade, sanctions, claims settlement, private international law. Now, here's an important message. Re-engagement is not easy. It doesn't always produce quick or perfect results. We need long-term strategies to build coalitions of the like-minded. We have to be able to stay the course to achieve meaningful outcomes. And then finally, renewing international law by reviving a workable treaty process and also renewing global legal initiatives in a number of areas: piracy, H1N1, polar law, cyber law, e-commerce, arms trade. And remember that our law is in service of a number of goals. Among them, bringing to the end the Cold War. That's a feature of our diplomacy in North Korea, our nuclear armament discussions, building networks, public-private partnerships, not just walls, addressing new sources of global insecurity, not just terrorism, but also disease, climate change, food security issues, and then finally lifting the world's bottom billion, and particularly targeting problems of gender disparities and basic human needs. Many of these issues are coming to the fore in the Haiti crisis, which I'm delighted to talk about in the question and answer. Now, it may seem taken together that this is a huge laundry list. It may seem that these are huge obstacles. One of my favorite sayings from Yale chaplain William Sloane Coffin liked to say, "What looks like great obstacles," he said, "are really brilliant opportunities, brilliantly disguised as great obstacles." And I think that for this administration, when we rise above the day-to-day, the most brilliant opportunity for us to seize is to treat these issues not just as a series of isolated challenges, but as an occasion for articulating this strategic vision, this Obama-Clinton doctrine that I'm describing. And in that effort, we are aided by civil society. We are aided by the practicing bar. We need your help and advice. In my own time as a professor, much of what I did was to write and speak to government officials, we need your input and your ideas. Too often those who are in the fray don't have the vision to get good ideas, and we need those ideas. And I think that there's not a day that I don't go to work thinking that in the 21st century, I have the good fortune to work for a government in a world where the defining image is not a world divided by a Berlin Wall, but a world interconnected by a World Wide Web. We need to think of the emerging technologies and scientific developments which pose threats as also posing brilliant opportunities. We need to think of them as toys. Many people think of them as toys. I think we need to think of them as tools, tools for change, to coin a phrase for change we can believe in. And with that, I think that is our brilliant opportunity. With the help of all of you here, I hope we can seize it. Thank you.